According to the National Institution of Health, 53.5% of people in the world have a fear of clowns. But this wasn't always the case. Clowns used to be celebrated and even paid to appear at kids' birthday parties. But that started to change in 1986 when Stephen King first published his novel It, and of course with a little help from this asshole. And in 1990, the It miniseries evaporated any of the love for clowns that was left. There will be spoilers, so if you, for any reason, have not seen this masterpiece, please go check it out right now. But today, I'll be telling y'all why the It miniseries will never get old. It starts with a little girl named Lori Ann riding her bike when she sees something in the hanging laundry. Oh shit, it's It! Pennywise then kills her off screen, which there's a lot of off-screen kills in this movie, so if you don't fuck with off-screen, it's the 90s and they had like $5 to make this movie, so just let it slide, alright? Soon after, we see Mike Hanlon getting bitched by some paramedics. Mike tries to deny what is happening until he sees a picture of Georgie by a tree, and that is when he realizes It has returned. Mike calls Bill Denborough, who is having dinner with his wife Audra, to tell him that It is back. Hey, I don't know how this guy got a wife with that damn ponytail, so no excuses to y'all boys out there. You can do it. Bill starts spazzing out, and his stutter returns as we see a flashback to 30 years ago, where we learn that on a rainy day, Bill made his little brother Georgie a paper boat, which Georgie sailed right into the sewer, where a nice clown handed it right back to him with no problems. Pennywise tricks Georgie into reaching his arm into the sewer to get his boat back, and then takes a bite out of his arm and kills him off screen. After Georgie's funeral, Bill is looking at old pictures of his little brother when he winks at him. Hey, yo! Then the photo album starts tweaking out and blood spills everywhere, but too bad for Bill, his parents don't notice anything and he's on his own. Now back to the present. Bill says he had forgotten everything that happened 30 years ago and now remembers, so he must return to Derry to fulfill his promise. Now Ben Hanscom, or did they mean handsome? Look at this guy. Anyway, he is next to get the call while he's having a blast, sipping on some sauce and grabbing some ass. It's Mike who tells Ben It has returned and now he must come back to Derry. But first he goes to the rooftop to think, as we get a flashback from 30 years ago. He was the fat kid who had a crush on a girl named Beverly Marsh and got bullied by Henry Bowers.
What a porker.
One day after school, Henry and his gang tried to carve their names into Ben's stomach when he kicks them and escapes into the Barrens, which is an area in the woods where the sewer systems led to. Here he hides and watches the bullies pick on some kids who are also hanging out down by the sewers. I was gonna make a joke here, but I can't even say anything. Hey, me and the homies used to crawl through them sewer tunnels when we were young too, but that's just because we watched too much Face Rug. When the bullies leave, Ben joins the kids, who we learn are Bill Denborough and Eddie Kaspbrak. Later that day, Ben gets bullied by his cousin for the poem he was writing for Beverly. It reads, "Roses are red, violets are blue. I'm trying to Ben had enough of the hate at home, so he heads back to the Barrens where he sees his late father, who died in Korea, who tells Ben that he got a new crib down in the Barrens. Hey, the rent prices ain't no joke, motherfucker, you feel me? Ben's dad fades into Pennywise, who laughs at Ben before disappearing before a skeleton tries to grab Ben's foot from the water. The flashback ends, and now we see Beverly Marsh, who is married to who I assume to be Patrick Bateman.
Bevy, don't ever contradict me in front of Pam again, okay?
Bev gets a call from Mike and starts packing her things when her husband comes home and Mike Tyson 1-2 hits her across the face, Chris Brown style. Bev escapes and hops on a taxi where she has her flashback from 30 years ago. We see her pick up the poem left by Ben, but her dad reads it and isn't really rocking with all that, so now he hits her, but this time Ray Rice style. Bev escapes her house where Ben chases her down and takes her to the Barrens to meet Eddie and Bill. But she fucking with Bill. Okay then, Bill.
Hi.
Down at the Barrens, the kids are joined by Richie Tozier and Stanley Uris. Oh, how clever. Name the Jewish kid Stanley. Right. The crew builds a dam in the shit water and then head home to where Bev has a moment watching Bill ride home thinking that he wrote the poem instead of Ben. Just wait till he gets handsome Bev. Later at home, Bev hears all the dead kids talking to her through the sink before a balloon comes out and pops, leaving the blood all over her in her bathroom. She screams for her dad, but he doesn't seem to notice anything when he gets there, and she gets threatened to try not to fight Pennywise or she will die. The flashback ends, and we cut back to grown-up Bev in a taxi. Next, we see Eddie Kaspbrak leaving his mom, who he still lives with after getting the call from Mike. Him and his mom fight about him returning to Derry, but he hops in a limo and leaves anyway, and we get a flashback to him 30 years ago. At the movie theater, Eddie accidentally kicks popcorn onto the bullies, and then Richie finishes the job by pouring his soda on them. The kids dip out before the bullies can get them, and they celebrate on Eddie's front lawn until his mom comes home and kicks the rest of the kids out. Next, Eddie is at school where the gym teacher forces him to take a shower, where all of a sudden the faucets turn on and reach out to him in what looks like some shit you'd see in the back of Spencer's. Pennywise sticks his hand out of the drain and comes up through the floor to taunt Eddie before the flashback ends. Next, we see grown-up Richie, who is a comedian on TV when he gets the call from Mike to return to Derry. He lays his face on the toilet in fear, looking like a white girl at a party after half a can of White Claw. Then we get a flashback of Richie 30 years prior when we see the kids at the Barrens talking about their future. Bill is about to tell them about the bloody photo album, but gets interrupted by the feds, who tell the kids to stick together because children are going missing. Then Richie is at school when Henry and the bullies confront him, but he thinks fast and throws his tray at the bullies before accidentally running into the principal and spilling his tray too. The principal sends Richie to the basement to clean up the mess when he sees a werewolf, or someone in a $20 Party City werewolf costume, before it turns into Pennywise, who clowns Richie. See what I did there? The flashback ends and we go back to the present where we see Mike looking at an old picture of the crew when he has a flashback of his own to 30 years ago. In the flashback, Mike is getting bullied by Henry and his crew for racist reasons when he runs into a gravel yard where the rest of the losers are hanging out telling each other how they have been seeing Pennywise, except for Stanley. They help Mike by throwing rocks at the bullies and scaring them away. Hey, they lucky Henry don't keep that thing on. The now 7-kid group flicks up on an old train car. The kids look at Mike's photo album where they see Pennywise from 200 years ago in Derry. The pages start tweaking and we see my favorite scene in the movie of a picture coming back to life. Pennywise is skipping through the town when he jumps on a light pole and tells the kids he will kill them, and he is everything they're scared of before reaching his hand out of the picture and towards the kids. But Stanley slams the book shut, so they cool now. Bill convinces the losers to join him and help him defeat Pennywise, to which they agree. The flashback ends and we go to present Mike, who gets jump scared by a balloon popping in his face. Now we meet our last loser, Stanley Uris. He gets the call from Mike but is reluctant to come back to Derry, so he takes a bath to think on it, but not before a flashback to 30 years ago once again. Here the kids are practicing slingshotting when they realize that Bev is better than them all, so they make her the designated shooter, and Richie gives her 2 singular pieces of silver to defeat Pennywise. Yeah, that should do it. The crew get to the sewers where they stop for a little smoke break. Pass that motherfucking doobie, Eddie. The kids head into the sewers where they are unknowingly followed by Henry and his gang. The bullies decide to split up when a bright light murders Vic, one of the bullies. The losers travel to the sewers when Stanley is snatched by the other 2 remaining bullies, Henry and Belch, where they start undressing him. Some freaky ass bullies, man. The lights are back and they burst through the pipes and explode to knock Henry and Belch away from Stanley. The light folds Belch in 2, killing him, and mesmerizes Henry before chasing Stanley back to the rest of the losers. The sewers fill with smoke and all the kids see their worst fears before Pennywise snatches Stanley away from the group. Pennywise is about to take a bite out of Stanley when Eddie sprays him with his inhaler with battery acid in it, making Pennywise's face melt off. Then Bev slingshots a piece of silver on his forehead, but the group can't finish him off as he jumps into the sewer and escapes in a very goofy special effect. Hey, it's 1990, so I'ma let this slide. The children leave the sewers where outside Bill convinces them all to make an oath to return to kill it once and for all if it returns. The flashback ends where we go back to the present where Stanley's wife discovers him bloody in the bathtub as we learned he offed himself, too afraid to fight Pennywise again. Bill arrives in Derry and the first thing he does is visit Georgie's tombstone, but he can't help but notice Pennywise is digging up graves behind him.
Billy boy.
He then goes to the library where he reunites with Mike and he tells him that he barely remembers anything. Mike gives him their old bike to help jog his memory and they have a sick-ass bike riding montage. Lucky Bill gets to feel Mike's nice warm sack. Anyways, they spill cards on the ground and see Pennywise on the back of them. Next, Richie arrives and he sees a sign with "Rest in Peace" with his name on it. He gets to the library, and while he's waiting for Bill and Mike to return, sees Pennywise, who brought hella balloons and also brought his own stand-up comedy routine.
Do you have Prince Albert in a can? You do? Well, you better let the poor guy out.
Ben has his taxi drop him off at the Barrens, where he sees the same skeleton that tried to grab him 30 years ago. And after he gets back to the taxi, he sees Pennywise on the side of the road and also Bloom next to his face in the taxi. Eddie arrives and visits the pharmacy, where he sees the old man that told him he not on them yerkies, but placebos. Then the old man's voice turns into Pennywise's and the monster hand grabs his arm, so he dips. Beverly arrives to visit her old house, where the new lady that lives there invites her in for tea. The old lady slurps her tea like she auditioning for a Johnny Sins episode, and Bev's tea turns into blood, so she throws it and breaks the cup. The old lady picks up the mess but turns into a zombie with her dad's voice. So then she dips, but turns around to see a boarded up house with Pennywise at the door. Bill's wife is talking with one of his directors when she decides to buy a plane ticket to Derry. The losers all gather at a Chinese restaurant for dinner. Bev makes out with everyone when she arrives, especially Bill. Hey, don't tell his wife. Mike explains how Henry Bowers took blame for all the kids that died 30 years ago, and he got put in an insane asylum, and no one believed all the clown stories. Then the moon starts talking to this crackhead taking a nap. Oh shoot, that's Henry Bowers, and Pennywise is the moon telling him to go back to Derry and kill the losers. The losers open up their fortune cookies to some fuck shit. They got blood, cockroaches, eyeballs, crabs, and a dead baby bird. After dinner, the crew is kicking it at the library when Mike gets a call to find out that Stan is dead. Bill tells a story when he saves Stan running away from the house that he saw a mummy chasing him. Eddie says how Stan was the only one who really saw the deadlights 30 years ago. Mike tries to get a drink out of his fridge when a couple of balloons fly out and they see Stanley's head, and it starts talking hellish shit. Then it converts into Pennywise's voice. The library starts tweaking, and there's only one way to stop it. They gotta grab each other's dicks and do a circle jerk. At the insane asylum, Henry sees a zombie Belch who wants to fuck him. Belch tells Henry he's going to break him out and gives him a knife to kill the losers. Henry starts to leave before a security guard comes to stop him, but Pennywise appears with a dog to kill the guard. At a hotel, the losers sit around and chat when Mike reminds the losers of the kids that died 30 years ago and how every 30 years some fuck shit be happening in Derry and the adults don't give a fuck, so they gotta stick together. Audra pulls up to a gas station in Derry where Pennywise decides he wants to fuck.
Don't you want it? Don't you want it?
Audra then looks into the deadlights. Back at the hotel, Ben and Bev got some serious, horny PDA shit going on in front of everybody. Then the crew splits up to go to their rooms for a second when Ben makes out with Bev because she found out it was him that wrote the poem. Wait, that's my fucking Pennywise. Ben was trying to fuck Pennywise.
Kiss me, fat boy.
In Mike's room, Henry Bowers pops out and stabs him with a knife. Then Ben and Eddie come... Whoa now. Then Ben and Eddie come in and Henry stabs himself and dies. The losers bring Mike to the hospital where Bev says the poem to Ben and he thinks it's Pennywise again, but this time it's for real. And they start licking each other's chops. In the hospital, Mike shows us that he went back to get the silver from the sewer 10 years ago when he went back to off himself in the hands of Pennywise. Back at the hotel, the gang gets ready to dip when they see a 5-year-old died on the news. They all get ready to go back home when Bill gives another inspiring speech and convinces the rest of them to help him defeat Pennywise. They head into the Barrens where Bill sees Audra's purse and runs down the tunnel. The group catches up to him and they find themselves where they last defeated Pennywise and see a paper boat and Georgie. Bill knows he's not real, so he sends the boat away and the losers follow it to a huge spiderweb room where before entering, Eddie tells us he's a virgin.
You're a virgin?
Yeah. What? I thought that was normal, right? It's okay to be a virgin, right? It's okay. Bill tries to get Audra out from the webs when a big-ass spider pulls up. Bev's slingshots don't do anything, and while she fetches them, Bill, Richie, and Ben get stuck looking at the deadlights. Then Eddie gets picked up while trying to hit Pennywise with the battery acid again. Bev hits the spider in the deadlights and it drops Eddie and runs away. Eddie dies in the arms of his friends, so they decide to end it once and for all. They go up to the injured spider, and beat the fuck out this motherfucker. They look like the one hot Cheeto girls getting in a fight in the school cafeteria. They finally kill it by ripping out its heart, and Bill pulls down Audra, and she is unresponsive but alive. We see Mike in the hospital, who wrote down everything so he can leave Derry but still remember what happened. Richie gets to star in a movie. Ben and Bev get married and pregnant. Bro, it's been like a week. Y'all gotta chill. The movie ends with Bill seeing his old bike while leaving Derry with his zombie-like wife, so he decides to take her for a spin down a very, very busy road where she comes back to life and the two start making out in the middle of the road. For free? For some reason, it took me a very long time to actually watch this movie because it is confusing as hell to find out how to watch it. Hey, call me dumb all you want, but I had this movie hanging on my wall for years, but I always thought it was the second part because I didn't know it was all in one, because I watched the 2017 version first, which we will be talking about later, so stay tuned. But anyways, I finally watched it and I was not disappointed. This movie will never get old. I feel I can rewatch it again and again. First, because obviously there's 2 parts, so you can always split them up and get diversity that way. Also, the creatures are so different. There is a large variety of monsters that Pennywise manipulates the characters to see. You have the skeleton from the Barrens, the werewolf from the school, the zombie tea woman from Bev's house, and a mummy in the abandoned house that Stanley saw, which was my favorite because it's such a horror classic creature, and it does not get utilized that often in horror movies, and it doesn't get the love it deserves, so it is such a unique choice to be used in this film. The setup of the movie is very unique in the way the flashbacks were implemented to show what the kids went through 30 years prior, and after that story is told through flashbacks, the story fades into the present as we watch the crew take on Pennywise again. But I must say, some of the special effects were a bit silly, which I am usually not a fan of. Well, come on, the budget and period, give it a pass. We can just ignore the Pennywise drain scene from the end of the first part. Also, the first part is much better than the second part, but it doesn't ruin the series since it all ties together and the second part is needed to tell the whole story. That is something I can't say for the remake, but that's another video. The acting is wonderful. The kids in the first part do a very good job at showing their innocence and fear of Pennywise initially, and gradually showing through their acting that they are more confident and not afraid of Pennywise at the end. The second part also has great actors, but we don't see the build-up from the fear to bravery, so it doesn't flow as well and the acting doesn't seem as convincing. And obviously, I can't talk about the It miniseries without mentioning the amazing performance from Tim Curry as Pennywise. He does a great job at using his facial expressions to induce fear on the viewer. Tim Curry's performance is so creepy and makes it so easy to feel what the characters in the movie felt during these moments with Pennywise. Overall, I love this movie, and I think it has a ton of rewatchability. I believe the It miniseries will never get old and will forever be a classic. Let me know y'all thoughts on this miniseries and any other videos y'all would like to see next down in the comments below. Please drop a like and hit that subscribe button, or you'll have to stare into the deadlights. Thank y'all so much for watching, and have a blessed day. Peace.